Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Charlie, for your wonderful talk. Charlie made one mistake, though.
No, only one.
He said something to the effect of to get enlightenment,
Okay.
to become enlightened.
Yeah,
But everyone, or become Buddha, but everyone is already Buddha.
yes.
And everybody is already awake, which is a much better translation than enlightenment. So everybody's already awake, and everybody's already Buddha, but we don't believe it.
That's true.
So we make this self that we try to protect, and it's completely made up, and then we wonder why things go wrong, and we project selves onto other beings, and then we see them as threats. So everybody's already awake. You're first, you're second. Okay.
Going to Charlie's talk and relating it to the Anattara Sutra when it says,
So relating it to the Anattara Sutra.
Form is not the self, perception is not the self, consciousness is not the self, and information and impulse is not the self.
Form is not the self.
Form is not the self.
What's the next
Feeling.
one? Feeling is not the self.
Perception is
Perception is not the self.
Mental formations /
Mental formations are not the self.
Consciousness is not the
Consciousness is not the self.
self. So how does that relate to when I step on the frost and I hear the snow?
So how does that relate to when you step on the frost and you hear the snow crunch?
That is the self.
Okay, so that's your question. So this is a Theravada Sutta. So it is pointing to impermanence, but in Mahayana we point to emptiness. So there's no self. Okay? All right? Also, like the Heart Sutra says, no eyes, no ears, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. And it goes on and negates the Four Noble Truths. Negates everything, because everything is empty. But this emptiness is not nihilism. This emptiness is, what's the word I want? This emptiness is creative. This whole universe comes out of this emptiness. Okay? So don't worry about intellectually trying to analyze what is going on here when I hear my foot crunching in the snow. It's just your foot's crunching in the snow and your ears are working. You know, that's all. And your foot is not actually your foot, and it's not even a foot, but that's another story. But right now, it's your foot crunching in the snow and your ears are working. Okay? And what was your question?
No, I was just going to say, in reply to my mistakes.
Oh, Charlie's replying to his mistake.
I'm still learning.
He's still learning. I hope so. I hope we're all still learning, right? You know? So I hope we're all still learning. So, you know, even the Buddha himself never stopped. It's very important to understand. You know, people have this idea that the Buddha saw this star and he woke up and, oh, that was the end of it. How could it be? Things are constantly shifting and morphing and changing, and everything's going on. Things are combining and recombining, and all this stuff is going on. Buddha's getting older. He's hungry. He has to pee, you know, whatever. He's tired. How could it all just stop when he saw the star? Okay, that's the end. He's got everything. He couldn't possibly do that. So every one of us, all our lives, just keep waking up, keep waking up, keep waking up. Are there any other questions? Yes. And then you.
I find myself just in the situation that we're in.
You find yourself in the situation that we're in the country right now.
Kind of continuously, kind of falling into a hell.
Falling into a hell realm.
Where I really go into judgment.
Where you go into judgment.
Dislike, frustration. Even getting kind of hateful.
Even getting kind of hateful.
And these feelings are very palpable.
And these feelings are very palpable.
So real.
They're very real.
But when that happens, I can notice, oh, there, I'm doing that again.
When it happens, you notice, oh, I'm
And
doing that
I'll just
again.
kind of connect with my breath a little
You
bit.
connect with your breath a
And
little bit,
that those feelings will kind of dissipate.
and the feelings dissipate, kind of.
Kind of. But I'm not feeling a lot of love and compassion.
But you're not feeling a lot of love and
When those
compassion.
feelings dissipate, maybe they're just suppressed.
Maybe you're just
But
suppressing your feelings.
I don't know. It seems like the feelings, you know, sense of compassion. I know compassion isn't necessarily a feeling, but it just doesn't seem very palpable or real.
You have no palpable,
And
real feeling of
I don't know,
compassion
I don't know if this is a
or
question
love.
or if I'm just like.
Is this a question, or are you just complaining?
So anyway, I wonder, do you have anything to say?
Do I have anything to say about that? Don't get caught up in yourself, right? So you're checking, and we all do that. You're checking, am I a good person? I'm supposed to love everybody. Am I loving everybody right now? Am I filled with compassion? Why am I so angry? Anger is a bad thing, right? Okay? So just, so you're feeling this way, so you're feeling that way. What are you doing? That's what's important. What are you doing? So, Evelyn's before you. So, if you saw Elon Musk drowning, would you save him, assuming you know how to swim? And the answer to that has to be yes, right? The answer to that cannot be, I would throw more rocks on him, you know, right? So what do you actually do? That's the question. What do you actually do? So yeah, we can get very caught up in what you're talking about is judging your feelings. That's what you're talking about. So how do you use your feelings? How do you use them? Like if you experience anger, does that help you be kind to a person who is angry at you? Because you know what it's like, right? I remember Zen Master Sungsan, who had terrible diabetes, really, really bad diabetes for most of his adult life. And, you know, people back then, maybe they still do have this idea of a Zen master where, you know, if you become a Zen master, it's like you're perfect. You know, you never get sick, you know, you never gain too much weight or lose too much weight. You know, you never just, everything is just perfect in your life. Of course, everybody dies, but somehow that didn't enter into anybody's head. So people would say, how can you be a Zen master and you have diabetes? Stupid question, it's easy. And he would always say, my diabetes helps this world. And what he meant by that is he could use his experience of illness and his experience of coming close to death. He actually almost died once on a European tour from heart disease. Nobody realized it, and then suddenly they realized it, and you know, he would have been dead like the next day or two if they hadn't taken him to a hospital. I think it was Spain or Germany, I forget where it was. So he used those experiences. He used those experiences in his teaching. Not like, oh, I'm going to tell you about what it is, but just the experience of being in this situation where you're reliant on medication. You have to be careful about what you eat. You know, sometimes you just really lose it and dangerous things start happening. This experience was something that informed the way he saw people around him, and it helped him be the teacher that he was. So how do you use this? What do you do with all these feelings that you're having? That's the important thing. And if you think that what's going on is perfectly great and wonderful and the world will be better off for it, and you're feeling very smug and, you know, happy about things, how do you use those feelings? It doesn't matter. How do you use your life in the service of life? Not your personal life, but in the service of all life. How do you use your experience, your life, in the service of others? That's the important thing. Okay? So, thank you. Oh, wait, Evelyn, you had a question.
Yes. Does the nature of practice change the further you get into it?
Does the nature of practice change the further you get into it? How many people here have been practicing for more than 10 years? You've practiced more than 10? Wow. Okay. Does the nature of practice change the more you get into it? So people online can't see. People are shaking their heads no. People online are shaking their heads no. Actually, I'm going to disagree with you. The nature of practice changes every moment. Okay? It's not like there's a predictable way in which the nature of practice changes. But it's more like every moment. I mean, you tell me, you sit here for 25 minutes, is your mind always in the same place? No. I mean, maybe it is it? No, I don't think so. You'd be a Martian or something, you wouldn't be human. So yeah, so the nature of practice is always changing because the nature of this world is always changing. There is a kind of wonderful mind when people are new to practice, this beginner's mind. There's this famous book, Zen Beginner's Mind, by the great Japanese Zen Master Shunryu Suzuki. So there is this beginner's mind where we're really open. And then after a while, we kind of think, oh, I know what's going on, but we never do. We never do, and it's always changing. So keep your practice fresh. But also sometimes our practice doesn't feel fresh. How many people have experienced just, oh my God, practice again, right? Okay. Practice long enough and it's like, oh my God, practice again. You keep going through that because, as I was saying to Todd, it's not about our feelings, it's about how we use them. So when we're bored, when we find it dull, use that. Because a lot in this world is boring and dull, and we'll have to deal with it. So here we are in practice, it's boring and dull. What do you do with that? And here we are in practice, and it's exciting, and we're in nirvana. What do you do with that? So it's always changing. Doesn't matter if you're new or old. Okay? Thank you. And let's see, somebody raised their hand. Bond, yes. Bond, where are you these days?
Oh, hi. Right now I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I've sort of been shuttling back between Germany and the US for
Okay.
yeah, but here right now. So nice to see everybody. Gosh, missed you all.
Yeah.
Well, I just quick question. I've been thinking a lot about the idea of don't know mind.
Mm-hmm.
Um and and I was just wondering kind of how it relates to Charlie's story about Charlie, your wonderful story about the gnat, and then thinking of, oh, that's a label, this thing, it's a gnat, and but um, wondering about if I guess Judy, if you could touch on how don't know mind relates to that story, or Charlie, if you could identify, like, how does can we bring in the idea of don't know mind into that story, and does don't know mind help us achieve that kind of swinging door where we get to a place of greater connection with the things we see? I guess-
Well, the door isn't swinging, it's open.
Okay.
Yeah, everyone wants, I can't help myself. Everyone wants to know about don't know mind, right? Which is interesting. Yeah, so don't know mind is the mind before thinking, before labels, before speech. So it's the mind that doesn't need the word gnat to see the gnat. If I say, how many fingers? How many fingers?
One.
Nope,
At least one, no more than six.
nope. Now, some people online have been giving the correct answer, right?
That's all we can see on yours.
You don't have to know how to count, just, right? Yeah. So the mind before speech, before thinking, the completely responsive mind, that mind. So when you when you go around, I'll tell you what don't know mind isn't. So maybe you have a friend who's in some kind of unstable situation, trying to decide what job to take or where to move or whether to stay with their partner, whatever it is. You have some friend who has a decision to make, and you're thinking, oh, I know what they're going to do. I know what they're going to do. They're going to do this for this reason. No, wait a minute, they're going to do that for that reason. Oh, wait a minute, maybe there's a third option. That's not don't know mind. And we do this all the time. We do this with ourselves, we do it with others. We do this all the time. We're projecting what we think is going to happen onto this world. We project what we think things are onto this world, and they're not. So I remember, one of my, everyone has these sort of little awakening experiences when you practice, and where all of a sudden it's like you see something you didn't see before. And for me, it was a fly on a countertop. I came home from a retreat and there was this fly on the countertop. And flies are gorgeous. They have these beautiful wings with many, many colors, and they have these little hairy bodies and little hairy legs, and they're really interesting looking creatures, and I'd never really noticed. And I go, wow, fly, that's a little bit of inkling, you're letting the world in a little bit. Your mind is open. Wow, look at that. A baby, when a baby is born, they're not blind. There's this myth that they're blind. They're not. They're looking around. They're just looking at it. They have no idea what's going on. They have no ideas in the sense that we have ideas. They're just newborns. They're trying to put it all together, They're trying to let it in and figure out what to do with it. The letting it in is the don't know mind. The figuring out what to do with it is not so much don't know mind, but we have to function, so we have to do that. But yeah. So if you can see what's there without having to put it in little boxes, that's don't know. And it's really important to rely on don't know, because I know a lot of people right now are they're just lost in fantasies of either disaster or triumph, depending on what side of the stuff they're on. People are just thinking of disastrous things that can happen and fabulous things that can happen. And when we do that, that prevents us from seeing what's actually happening. How many of you have an idea of what an ICE raid on a place that employs a lot of immigrants is like? How many of you have some kind of idea of what it's like when they go in and they try to arrest a bunch of immigrants? Anybody have any idea what that's like? Do you imagine a lot of violence and yelling and, right? I saw a video. It's completely quiet. Completely quiet. It's not our imagining at all. Very, very quiet. We have to be really open to how things actually are and not how we think they are. That is very, very important. Because otherwise we're responding to the wrong thing. We're responding to something that is not actually there. And it's important in every aspect of our life, from the most benign to the most fearful, in every aspect of our life, to respond to what is actually there and not what we think might be there. So, I should say something to end on a cheerful note. Everybody's already Buddha, okay? That's really important. Have that faith. You are already Buddha, okay? And realize that Buddha inside you. So, thank you.